Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coach program. My name is Payne. I train people for improved personal and professional development, offering my assistance for those ready to develop their goals into tangible and focused and, of course, achievable plans of action. And this podcast is one of the tools I use to complete that mission. How it works, we give you a 10-minute life coaching lesson. At the 10-minute mark of this podcast, you'll have a full lesson that you can take away with you and apply to your life, whether it's a personal development deal or a professional development deal. You can go ahead and get started on it essentially immediately after listening to the audio. We like you to listen to the further parts, but in 10 minutes, you'll get a full lesson. And in some cases, you may hear a lesson, something that sounds so familiar, sounds like it's something that you're already doing and may not have clicked yet, may not have gotten you those great results. That's just reinforcement that what you're doing is a solid idea, just needs a little time and effort to work into it. For more information on how I can help you maybe massage that out a little bit better, check out the main website for this podcast, 10minutelifecoach.com. So this episode is literally my mea culpa episode. It's my big apology to everyone for doing what I should have done, but doing it with the wrong data, doing it with the wrong ideas in mind. Now, when I talk to people in their business work, my business professional consulting, one of the main things I focus on is your focus. Who are you focused on? How do you know who you should be talking to as a primary customer, as a secondary customer, as people who may wander in, how to take care of them? But who are the people that literally take care of you and your business, so you make sure that they are taken care of to the fullest extent without, of course, eliminating other possible entries. What I did was change the focus of this podcast based on some false data, or false idea, I should say. The data was basically there, but I took it in, interpreted it in a kind of a weird way that basically fit my ideals and my suited myself, to be honest. I have two personal development podcasts going at the moment. One is this one, 10-Minute Life Coach, find at 10minutelifecoach.com. The other is Steps to Your Better You, based off of the website yourbetteryou.info. Now, Your Better You was supposed to be the place I was moving all of my personal development work to. A major website crash caused me to lose a lot of efforts into that website. And so it's been not so much dormant. The podcast had survived. In fact, the podcast survived about 2 months without having a website. But in the process, the focus of my personal development eyes and ideals went to more of a focus. I had two podcasts. I had the 10-Minute Life Coach podcast, a longer podcast that was more structured, more organized, a bit more information. And I had a lighter area, one that even had music into it, Steps to Your Better You, which was quicker and easier and easy to digest. That podcast is literally 90 seconds. So I did some consulting with some people who do these things and did some look at my numbers and tried to parse out where exactly I was going to take the business and how I was going to rebrand and regrow the dormant part of yourbetteryou.info. What I found was a false narrative. In the past, when I created this website, or 10-Minute Life Coach, the podcast, and created its background, I gathered some randomish type people because I was literally starting out there. So they seemed kind of random, but the theme that came through was I was reaching a lot of women, which is not actually all that surprising because the people you see on social media who are doing a lot of the easy, simple life tip things are women, or targeted towards people that are more or less neutral so that women are involved. A lot of the life coaching things, a lot of the personal development things that are really male focused, is what I like to think of as the howl at the moon type stuff. You know, you gather with a bunch of guys, you do a bunch of heavy exercises, you lift things, you drink things, you get all grunty and stuff. And it is all about the community of being a guy and being in a solid group, which is all great, but it's all about kind of the aggression and working that aggression into a fever pitch, and then kind of showing up in a suit and saying, yeah, I've tamed my beast. And that's not exactly how I wanted to roll with this. But the feedback I was getting lately wasn't quite showing that way. Well, it wasn't showing the growling at the moon type thing, but the people I've talked to about the business and stuff, personal development, have been more male focused for the 10-Minute Life Coach. And the writing that kind of came about from Your Better You is more, I don't want to say feminine, but it is lighter. It is easier. It is a lot less aggressive. So I made the conscious effort and looked at the numbers again and talked to some folks to change the focus of this podcast specifically and sort of tweak the focus of the other podcasts on the website. So the 10-Minute Life Coach was supposed to be a male kind of oriented thing made for guys. In fact, when we started reworking the work for the $10 Life Coach, the focus was getting guys into the program and getting guys into a support group that wasn't a howl at the moon type deal, that wasn't an overly aggressive type deal. It was just a place where guys can come in and feel safe and secure. I'm still working on the launch of that $10 Life Coach and hadn't quite got into its full frenzy yet, but we are going to shift that a little bit to a more universal focus. And for Your Better You, we're not going to call it the girls' version of this one because it's short and light and has music in it. It's going to be more balanced on both ends because that's the way it should be and that's the way I work. Now, this is the real kicker that really did it for me. I did some work, had some issues with Facebook over the past year, and they finally allowed me to give them money to pay for ads, which is really great for them. But over the course of a few weeks of doing ads, this is what I found out. The people who were responding to the ads and the posts and things that were doing that I were tracking with the sponsorship things that I was sponsoring out there were being seen and engaged with by 60% women and 39% men. That means there's a large gap of women overly sharing and looking at and reading and doing things I'm saying, and not the men. Not that 4% of men is not a bad thing, but when the other end is 6% women, that shows you where your audience lies. Also, I did a little bit of a tweak in the age based on my own age. I literally, at the time of this recording, turned 43 yesterday. My birthday was yesterday as I'm recording this. Of course, it's going to come down the pike a few weeks later. So I am trying to target people in my age group or coming into my age group because that's where I am personally. So it's easy to talk about people who are coming out of their brand new experience, getting into personal development, and then are now kind of getting into a place where they're not so much coasting, but they're getting into a place where it's normal. They're at a spot where they're more professional and they're starting to turn to becoming more of a role of a facilitator and mentor to others. The problem is, of that group of people who were, of course, responding to me, of course, number one, there's 60% women, so mentoring women is not a bad thing, but, I'm trying to find a way to get with the guys. I also found out that 24% of the people, that's the big gulp of people, were aged 25 to 34. Now, that's a quarter of the people that were actually targeted are in an age group that is below me, the age group I'm trying to get out of. So I have to refigure that one out. That one's going to be a bit of a challenge to figure out how I'm going to reach older people that I think are in my age group and make sure that younger people who seem to be getting what's going on are getting fed what they need to be fed. So I'm not going to dumb down anything, if you will. I'm not going to pre-age it, but I do have to do some tweaking, some working. So this is my mea culpa for trying to make this a guy's thing. I'm sorry. And by the way, I did hear about it from a few other women who were my early supporters in this endeavor because they weren't so happy about me saying, okay, now, ladies, that's all great. You're good and all, but I got to hang out with the fellas now. So I've got to do this on a more even keel, and that's what's going to happen. So my target audience cannot be a straight up gender. We'll deal with that. And the age may have to do some tweaking, but you can help me along the lines of all that as well. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to snap at me as well, just send me an email to jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. The letter J, Cleveland like the city, Payne, Payne, @gmail.com. And let me know what you think about this episode. Not exactly the most cheerful episode, not exactly the most warming episode or the most teaching episode, but I'm letting you in on what's going on inside here. Everything is a learning experience. I'm always going through learning experiences, and what you can tell me about this episode and what you think about the path that we're going on would be a great to help us learn in the future. And that is the end of the episode part of the 10-Minute Life Coach. Thank you so much for listening into the podcast. Make sure you check out the website for more great features, including even more tweaks to the $10 Life Coach now that we're unfocusing on being the dudes club and making it more of a personal development place for everyone. That's going to work out. Plus, you, of course, if you join the $10 Life Coach, you're buying me a sandwich. You're helping me get lunch every day and help me pay for some of the things that I do here and maintain the community that the $10 Life Coach will be. Plus, you'll get access to the great things that I'm going to put out. I promise they're great things, and you get a chance to see them up front, very first eyeballs, and you get to get them for free or very, 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 very cheap. Trust me, it will come to you, and you'll see it. You'll let me know how it goes, and when I send it out to the masses for big money, I can thank you for that. Check it out by going to the 10minutelifecoach.com and clicking on the button for $10 Life Coach. In the meantime, thank you so much for supporting this, even those that were a bit upset that I was not exactly giving them great support that I was in the past. I apologize for that. I've learned my lesson. This is my mea culpa, and hopefully I will get much better back to normal very soon. I also invite you to check out the other website and podcast that focus on personal development. That is Your Better You, or the podcast name is Steps to Your Better You, and the podcast is found at yourbetteryou.info. And yes, this is based a lot wrapping around a circle, going to the book that I released about 2 years ago at this point called Quick Steps, Your Better You, which took many of the steps in the podcast and some other things and gave you very, very, very precise, very quick, very easy to implement steps to help you give yourself a quick jump start to your personal development. You can find that on Amazon, or you can find links at the website, yourbetteryou.info. If you enjoyed this and want to stick around with me, make sure that you spread the word and spread the love to anyone you want to, guys, gals, anyone. And, of course, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on a feature. Because of how we're doing things, we're going to do some more in the way of written word. And I think I've brought that up before, that I believe I'll probably put it out just as a mass thing on Medium and then circle back to the main website. The biggest issue I have is I have too many websites and a kind of a fractured brand. So that's been the big thing, is getting that all organized. What I do know is I'm going to stop growling and hunting and whining and whatever I'm doing. Howling at the moon. That's what I'm doing. Stop the whole howling at the moon movement because I want to hang out with some fellas and bring everybody in. I enjoy diversity in all my interactions, and that's one thing as well. So you got to have a great pool of people to pull from, to talk to and talk about. So we're going to do that. So the 10-Minute Life Coach will be back to a more centered focus, which will not water down the message, which is the thing I thought if I went more male, I could have a more focused message. The biggest thing about making sure the message isn't watered down is making sure the generational thing is getting in. And since I have that large chunk of people identified as being a generation below where I am, I have to make sure I'm teaching for them, people who are brand new into the thing, because I've been focused on people who have figured out they've been doing this thing over and over again and not getting any traction, and now they need a little bit of help. So we're going to expand that a bit, and that may take a few weeks to really get into the real swing of things. So bear with me, pray for me, think about me, send me some prayers, send me some ideas, and I will implement them. Trust me. As I said, email address is jclevelandpayne.net. The main website for this podcast is 10minutelifecoach.com. You can find out about ways to get one-on-one coaching and the $10 Life Coach as well. And once again, just thank you for being a part of the podcast. You can always let me know what you think, and I just appreciate it by you sometimes just being here. Sometimes the silent majority is pretty awesome, and just being silent but being a part of it helps me out. If I know people are listening, that knows I am actually making an impact. So let me know who's listening. Let me know where you're listening from. We're getting a lot of international hits on this podcast lately. And just make sure you're here next week for another more teaching-like episode of the 10-Minute Life Coach.